The grand auditorium of the Interstellar Zoological Symposium hung suspended in space, a crystalline bubble orbiting the lush jungle-covered moon of Hierarchies. Through the transparent dome ceiling, 3 moons glowed against the violet sky, casting prismatic reflections across the polished obsidian floor. Iridescent hollow displays flickered throughout the chamber, each projection showcasing apex predators from across the known galaxy. Alongside these technological marvels stood climate-controlled terrariums where living specimens prowled, slithered, and stalked, carefully contained yet visible to all attendees. A hushed crowd filled the tiered seating. Dozens of alien species had gathered for this centennial event. Avian bipeds with feathers that changed color with their moods, crystalline cephalopods whose translucent bodies pulsed with bioluminescent thought patterns, telepathic felinoids whose whiskers twitched at every new scent. They conversed in a symphony of clicks, whistles, telepathic bursts, and translated standard. At the center of the symposium stood its most impressive feature, a massive biodome that served as a living bestiary. Within this controlled environment, xenobiologists could observe creatures in meticulously simulated habitats. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had brought their most fascinating predators to study and catalog, with one notable exception. Until this gathering, Earth fauna had been prohibited from inclusion, deemed too primitive by the Galactic Zoological Council. Riley Shue sat in the 3rd row, quietly adjusting her datapad as she reviewed her notes one final time. As the first human xenozoologist granted delegate status at the symposium, she felt the weight of Earth's scientific reputation resting on her shoulders. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her formal uniform, charcoal gray with the Blue Earth Alliance insignia, stood out among the colorful garments and natural coverings of the alien attendees. She was both exhilarated and apprehensive. Earth's predators remained largely unknown in this gathering of interstellar academics, dismissed as evolutionary curiosities from a relatively young biosphere. Riley's fingers absently traced the outline of the tattoo hidden beneath her sleeve, a prowling Bengal tiger rendered in vibrant orange and black. The image had been with her since her 21st birthday, a permanent reminder of the childhood spent in the reclaimed wildlife sanctuaries of India, where her parents had worked as conservation geneticists. The lights dimmed, sending a ripple of anticipation through the audience. A spotlight illuminated the central platform, where a massive figure emerged from beneath the stage. Professor Jarmek was an imposing presence, 9 feet tall with leviathan-scaled skin that gleamed like polished armor. His 4 arms moved with surprising grace as he activated the main holographic interface. The professor's reputation preceded him. He had personally catalogued over 300 galactic predators during his 2-century career, surviving encounters that would have ended most researchers. Esteemed colleagues, his voice boomed without need for amplification. Welcome to the 17th Interstellar Zoological Symposium. Near Riley, a creature composed entirely of crystalline structures arranged in a rough approximation of an octopus leaned closer, its faceted eyes refracting light in hypnotic patterns. This was Dr. Slaith, a renowned xenobiologist from the silicate moon of Quartzin. Fascinating to see a human here, came the telepathic whisper, a gentle intrusion into Riley's mind. I've studied your planet's oceans remotely. Your predators utilize surprisingly primitive methods, yet with remarkable efficiency. Riley smiled politely but said nothing. She had grown accustomed to such backhanded compliments about Earth's wildlife. Several rows ahead sat Council Observer Ferrin, barely 3 feet tall with iridescent wings folded carefully against his back. Though small, his species, the Hierarchies, held considerable political influence as founding members of the Galactic Council. Ferrin's presence signaled the importance of this symposium. He was tasked with reviewing and potentially revising the official classifications of predator hierarchies. Professor Jarmek gestured broadly, and the central hologram expanded to fill the air above the audience. Today, we continue our exploration of the hierarchical spectrum of galactic predators, from the cerebral hunters of the Nethrix system to the unparalleled strength of the Vorak brutes. The hologram shifted to display a stalking silhouette, an elegant, shadow-like creature with limbs that seemed to bend in impossible directions. The Nethrix Shadow Stalker, ranked primarily for its cognitive hunting abilities. These creatures can anticipate prey movements 17 steps in advance, creating elaborate traps that border on artistic. The projection changed again, displaying a mountain of muscle and bone. The Vorak brute, pure evolutionary perfection in terms of raw strength. A single specimen can bring down prey 30 times its mass through sheer force. For the next hour, Jarmek methodically moved through the spectrum, each entry accompanied by stunning holograms that animated the hunting techniques: bone-crushing jaws, psionic ambushes, gravitational manipulations, even temporal disruption hunting methods employed by the mysterious chronoraptors of the Sagittarius arm. Riley watched, fascinated but increasingly troubled. The classifications seemed to favor certain traits: psionic abilities, technological integration, or sheer destructive capability, while overlooking the elegant simplicity and ecological balance maintained by Earth's predators. As Jarmek neared his conclusion, Riley found herself standing before she had fully formed the thought to do so. The movement drew attention. Nearby delegates turned to look at the human. "Excuse me, Professor." Her voice rang clear in the momentary silence. "I have a question." Jarmek paused, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of mild irritation in his species. "The human delegate is recognized." Riley took a deep breath. "Where exactly do Earth's tigers rank in your spectrum?" The question hung in the air. A murmur rippled through the audience, some curious, others dismissive. No one had expected Earth's fauna to be considered at all, much less specifically mentioned. Jarmek's scaled brow furrowed as he consulted his notes. "Tigers, Earth felines, correct?" He scrolled through his data. "I don't believe they were included in the current classification system. Perhaps in the appendix of primitive hunters?" Several delegates chuckled. Riley felt heat rise in her cheeks, but maintained her composure. "With respect, Professor, I believe that's an oversight worth addressing. Tigers represent one of the most perfectly evolved predators in Earth's history, combining stealth, power, and ecological integration in ways that parallel many of your higher-ranked species." Dr. Slythe's crystalline form shimmered with interest. Bold claim from the human. Jarmek's expression shifted to one of academic curiosity mingled with skepticism. "An interesting assertion. Delegate Shu, however, without psionic abilities, technological integration, or collective hunting intelligence, how could such creatures compare to the established hierarchy?" Riley activated her own datapad. "With your permission, I'd like to present some evidence." The professor gestured magnanimously. "By all means, the symposium welcomes new perspectives, however, unconventional." Riley interfaced her device with the main projection system. The hologram shifted to display footage she had personally recorded in the Sundarbans National Park, one of Earth's last great mangrove forests where tigers still roamed freely under protection. The audience watched as a Bengal tiger moved through dappled shadows, its striped coat breaking up its outline among the sunlight filtering through leaves. The massive cat stepped with impossible silence, each paw placement deliberate, testing the ground before committing its weight. It froze, becoming nearly invisible despite its size, before executing a perfectly timed ambush on a wild boar nearly its equal in mass. "Tigers," Riley explained as the footage continued, "combine raw power with unparalleled stealth. They can adapt to multiple terrains, from mountains to grasslands to swamps. They're solitary hunters, yet maintain complex territorial relationships that balance predator and prey populations." She advanced the display to show statistical analysis of hunting success rates, bite force measurements, and ecological impact studies. Their evolutionary adaptations rival many of your Tier 2 hunters in effectiveness, despite lacking what you might consider advanced capabilities. Council Observer. Farron fluttered his wings, a sign of agitation. Delegate Shu, you present interesting footage, but this hardly constitutes empirical proof of ranking. We would require more substantial evidence, scientific data beyond visual recordings, live demonstration, or perhaps genetic analysis to support placement on the spectrum. Professor Jarmek stroked his scaled chin thoughtfully. Perhaps there is a more direct way to settle this question. He turned to address the full audience. I propose a predator trial. We could place an Earth tiger in the Symposium's simulation dome against one of our established Tier 2 hunters. That would provide observable data rather than theoretical debate. Murmurs of excitement spread through the auditorium. Such trials were rare and typically reserved for newly discovered species from unexplored worlds. Riley felt a surge of alarm. Professor, I'm not sure that would be... An excellent suggestion, interrupted Farron, clearly warming to the idea. If the human delegate truly believes in the capabilities of Earth predators, she should welcome the opportunity to demonstrate them. Riley found herself cornered. Refusing would be seen as tacit admission that tigers couldn't compete, undermining her entire argument. Accepting meant risking not only a tiger's safety, but potentially Earth's scientific reputation. I accept the proposal, she said carefully, provided we establish clear parameters for the trial that ensure ethical treatment of both creatures. Over the next 24 standard hours, preparation for the unprecedented trial consumed the symposium. A secure communication channel was established with Earth's Xenozoological Institute, where genetic engineers worked frantically to biostabilize a sedated tiger for transport through the wormhole gateway. Environmental ethicists argued vehemently about the morality of pitting living animals against each other. Even in a controlled setting, Riley barely slept. Spending most of her time in the simulation dome's control center, studying the parameters of the artificial environment being constructed. It would feature elements of both Earth jungles and the native terrain of the selected opponent, a void wraith from the gas giant moons of Tenebris. During these preparations, she encountered Maru Lee, the symposium's chief creature keeper, a tall, willowy being with bark-like skin and eyes that changed color with the position of nearby stars. Unlike many of the academic delegates, Maru Lee approached Earth's fauna with genuine curiosity rather than dismissal. You've taken on quite the challenge, Maru Lee observed, manipulating the environmental controls to adjust humidity levels in the dome. The Void Wraith is a formidable opponent, primarily hunts through echolocation and has tentacles that can detect electrical impulses from nervous systems. Riley nodded grimly. I know. I've studied the files. I'm not asking for the tiger to win, just to demonstrate that it deserves classification among the recognized predators. Maru Lee's eyes shifted to a thoughtful blue. The stakes seem higher than mere classification. They are, Riley admitted. Earth has been dismissed as a backwater for too long. Our biodiversity has value and lessons to teach. If the galactic community would only recognize it. After a long pause, Maru Lee made a subtle adjustment to the dome's terrain mapping. I've added additional reed beds and undergrowth patterns similar to your Sundarbans footage. They won't provide advantage to either creature, but might create more options. Riley understood the implicit support. Thank you. The day of the trial arrived with considerable fanfare. The auditorium was filled beyond capacity, with additional viewers watching via holographic transmission throughout the station. Riley stood at the observation platform, trying to mask her anxiety as the transport container arrived with its precious cargo. The tiger, a magnificent male Bengal weighing nearly 500 pounds, was remotely awakened from stasis within the safety of a transitional chamber. Riley watched through the monitoring system as the creature regained consciousness, its amber eyes alert and wary of the unfamiliar surroundings. Subject is stable, announced the medical technician. Vital signs normal, stress hormones elevated but within acceptable parameters. On the opposite side of the dome, the void wraith was similarly being prepared. A midnight blue cephalopod with a muscular central body and a dozen specialized tentacles that could extend to 3 times its body length. Its skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, a communication system that had evolved for hunting in the perpetual twilight of its home moon. Professor Jarmek addressed the assembled audience. Today we witness a unique addition to our understanding of predator hierarchies. The Earth delegate has proposed that her planet's tiger merits inclusion in our established spectrum. This controlled encounter will help determine appropriate classification. He gestured to the environmental team. The simulation will begin in 3 minutes. Both predators will be released simultaneously into neutral territory. Observation will continue until clear dominance is established or until the safety protocols are triggered. Riley felt her heart pounding. She had argued passionately for this opportunity, but now that it had arrived, she questioned her judgment. What if the tiger was overwhelmed? What if it was injured or killed? She would be responsible for subjecting one of Earth's endangered species to potential harm for what suddenly seemed like academic pride. The countdown commenced. The barrier doors slid open. The tiger emerged first, moving with cautious grace into the simulated environment. It paused at the threshold, whiskers twitching as it processed the unfamiliar scents. Despite the artificial nature of the habitat, it recognized elements similar to its native territory: water, cover, terrain that could support stalking. From the opposite entrance, the void wraith propelled itself forward with undulating movements, its tentacles testing the air and ground for sensory information. It rose to nearly the tiger's height, skin flashing with patterns of aggression and territorial display. The audience fell silent as the 2 predators became aware of each other. The void wraith reacted first, emitting a series of high-frequency pulses, its primary method of disorienting prey. The tiger flinched at the unfamiliar sensation but didn't retreat. Instead, it lowered its body, muscles tensed in preparation. What followed defied the expectations of most observers. Rather than charging directly at the alien creature, a fatal approach against a void wraith's sensory tentacles, the tiger began a strategic withdrawal toward the reed beds Maruli had added to the environment. "Interesting," murmured Professor Jarmek. "It's not engaging directly. It's not running away either," Riley pointed out. "Watch." The tiger moved deeper into the reeds, its striped coat beginning to break up its visual outline. The void wraith followed, clearly detecting the Earth predator through its electrical field sensing. But now, forced to navigate unfamiliar terrain where its tentacles became entangled in the dense vegetation. What happened next occurred so quickly that many delegates missed it. The tiger, having circled silently through the reeds, exploded from an unexpected direction, catching the wraith from its blind spot. Powerful jaws clamped down on the junction where tentacles met body mass, one of the few vulnerable points in the alien's anatomy. The wraith emitted a sonic blast of distress, its tentacles thrashing wildly. It managed to wrap 2 around the tiger's hind leg, delivering a painful electrical shock that forced the Earth predator to release its grip. Both creatures separated, reassessing. The tiger was limping slightly but remained focused, eyes never leaving its opponent. The wraith, now leaking bioluminescent fluid from puncture wounds, retreated toward deeper water where it would have greater mobility. Rather than pursuing, the tiger melted back into the reed beds, seemingly vanishing despite its size and bright coloration. Minutes passed with no visual contact. "Has it conceded?" asked Farron, leaning forward with interest. "No," Riley said confidently. "It's hunting." The tiger reappeared at the water's edge downwind from the wraith, having used the time to circle around to a position of advantage, when the alien predator extended tentacles to probe the shoreline. The tiger struck again, this time severing 2 appendages with precise bites before retreating. This pattern continued for nearly 20 minutes. Strategic engagement followed by disappearance. only to emerge from an unexpected angle. The tiger never committed to a prolonged confrontation where the wraith's advantages might prove decisive. Finally, after sustaining multiple injuries with little opportunity to effectively counterattack, the Void Wraith did something unprecedented in recorded trials. It retreated fully into the water and emitted the bioluminescent pattern signaling withdrawal from contested territory. Silence fell over the observation deck. The Void Wraith, a predator ranked in the upper echelons of Tier 2, had effectively conceded to the Earth Tiger. "Remarkable," Professor Jarmek finally said, his voice betraying genuine surprise. "I would not have predicted this outcome." Riley exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. The tiger didn't win through superior strength or exotic abilities. It won through adaptation and strategy, understanding how to use terrain and timing to neutralize its opponent's advantages. The recovery teams activated, safely separating and retrieving both animals. Medical assessments confirmed that neither had sustained life-threatening injuries, though the wraith would require regeneration time for its lost tentacles. In the aftermath, the symposium erupted into passionate debate. Delegates gathered in clusters, analyzing the encounter from every possible angle. Some dismissed it as an anomaly, while others argued for immediate reclassification of Earth predators. Professor Jarmek called an emergency session of the classification committee, including Council Observer Ferrin and a dozen leading xenobiologists. Riley was invited to present her case formally. "What we witnessed today," she began, standing before the committee, "challenges our fundamental understanding of predator hierarchy. The trial demonstrated that rank cannot be a simple scale of strength, speed, or even psionic power." Jarmek nodded thoughtfully. "Your tiger utilized terrain knowledge and behavioral adaptation rather than overwhelming force. This suggests our classification system may be complete." "Precisely," Riley continued, activating a new holographic display. "I propose a multi-axis hierarchy that considers not just hunting capability but ecological integration, intelligence modalities, adaptability, and even cultural significance within native ecosystems." She expanded the display to show a three-dimensional matrix where various predators, including Earth's, were plotted across multiple axes of measurement. By this model, tigers rank exceptionally high on adaptability and ecological balance, maintaining prey populations without collapsing food webs. They rank moderately on intelligence, not through abstract problem-solving but through perfect environmental integration. And while they lack the raw destructive power of some species, their predatory efficiency, calories expended versus hunting success, rivals any in the galaxy. Dr. Slythe's crystalline form shimmered with intellectual excitement. "The human presents a compelling case for ecological intelligence, rather than merely technological or psionic development. This has implications beyond predator classification." Ferrin, who had been skeptical throughout, slowly extended his wings in the Aristai gesture of thoughtful consideration. "While I'm not prepared to upend centuries of taxonomic tradition based on a single trial, I concede that our current system appears biased towards certain evolutionary paths. After 3 days of intensive review, including examination of data from Earth's other apex predators, sharks, crocodilians, wolves, and birds of prey, the Council voted to integrate Earth's predators into a revised framework. Tigers were placed high on the adaptability and ecological balance axes, with special notation of their unique blend of physical capability and environmental integration. On her final evening aboard the station, Riley stood at the observation deck, watching the jungle moon of Care-2 rotating slowly below. The green-blue sphere reminded her of Earth, both familiar and alien, simultaneously. "You've accomplished something significant," came Professor Jarmek's resonant voice as he joined her at the viewport. "Not just for your planet's recognition, but for zoological science as a whole." Riley smiled. "I think we're only beginning to understand what constitutes evolutionary success. Perhaps true predation is not mere conquest, but harmonious existence within an ecosystem." A philosophical question worth exploring. The professor agreed. Where do we place ourselves, then? Are humans predators, or something else entirely? Both, I suspect, Riley said, unconsciously touching the tiger tattoo beneath her sleeve. We have the capacity for domination, but also for stewardship. The choice defines us more than our capabilities. 2 weeks later, Riley returned to Earth. Her reputation transformed from obscure xenozoologist to celebrated ambassador of Earth's biodiversity. The revised classification framework was being implemented across galactic databases, with Earth's predators now featured prominently in educational materials. In her laboratory at the Xenozoological Institute, surrounded by specimens and data collected during her journey, Riley received an unexpected transmission. The holographic message bore the seal of the Galactic Exploration Corps, an invitation to join an expedition to a newly discovered world in the Andromeda Outer Rim, where sensors had detected what appeared to be an entirely novel apex predator. Another question beckoned among the stars, and Riley was ready to seek its answer. As she prepared for this new journey, she reflected on what the tiger had taught her in the galactic community, that survival was not a war, but a dance, a continuous adaptation to changing circumstances while maintaining one's essential nature. Perhaps humanity's place among the stars would be defined not by dominance but by this same principle, the ability to adapt while preserving what made them uniquely human. With this thought, she accepted the mission, eager to discover what new lessons awaited in the cosmic wilderness.